Welcome to another empowering episode of Level Up Stronger, the podcast where we dive deep into the art of personal growth and the science of achieving our dreams. We're your hosts, Tiffany Lederle
and Kenn, Lyon. And today, we're exploring a topic close to the heart of every dreamer and doer out there: accountability and responsibility. Yes, we're talking about the keys to not just dreaming big, but making those big dreams a reality.
It's about owning your journey, taking charge of your happiness, and stepping up to the plate when it comes to chasing after your goals. So whether you're looking to scale new heights in your career, enrich your personal life, or simply find more joy in the everyday, this episode is for you.
Let's get ready to take control, embrace responsibility, and truly level up stronger.
All right, so we're talking about accountability today, which is a tough subject, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because accountability is, in fact, not something that happens external to you. It is fully within your control, right?
True.
And so many people think about accountability from an external standpoint, holding other people accountable.
That's a good point.
It actually has nothing to do with anybody else, right? It has to do with me. It's a personal thing.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Tiffany. You're exactly right. A lot of times people put it outside of themselves, and that's so spot on. And it is
even from the standpoint of like work, right? Because we've been talking about this a lot this last week at work, is how do you keep your employees accountable, right? But at the end of the day, like, accountability is personal responsibility in coming to work or stepping into your life and taking charge of what you're doing, how you feel, how you think, how you react.
And to me, accountability has the quality of ownership to it,
Right.
that you're taking ownership about what it is that you're doing, and that you're invested in it, right? There's an aspect of you that cares about the outcome and wants to make a difference with what you're doing. So that, to me, there's also a level of impeccability there, right? Make sure that you're doing a good job and doing it to the best of your ability. To me, all that to me is about accountability.
Well, and also, like, can't make someone do something.
No.
You can't make someone think something. You can't make
Nope.
somebody feel something.
Nope.
It's fully there within their control. So, like, I can stack the deck in favor of the outcome I want, but at the end of the day, I cannot force someone to do, act, or feel what I want. They have complete choice.
True. So true.
And so that's where, like, accountability becomes like this thing that we are trying to control and manipulate into our way, whatever it is that we're wanting. And I think that is where a lot of the frustration comes from, because accountability is something I want, or the outcome of whatever the situation is, but I actually can't enforce the action, thought, and deeds, right? Feelings about whatever it is I'm trying to enforce. And so, like, we keep circling around this idea of holding people accountable. How are you doing that?
What can you do? I mean, like I said, you cannot make anybody do anything. You can inspire them. You can, hopefully encourage them to take action and be accountable as well.
It's still within their choice.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah, I think and to me, the accountability also, for me, also represents, especially working in work environments and in group projects, that you are making sure that you do the part that you've agreed to do in the bigger picture of what you're going after, right? That you're going to take a personal accountability, responsibility, saying, yes, I've got this. I got it handled. I'm going to make this happen, and you don't have to worry about it. And I'll ask you if I need help. To me, that is about being accountable. Like when I was running a nonprofit, and it was for an LGBTQ first ever Pride Parade and Festival in this region. And we all had different areas that we were responsible for. I was the parade chair. Somebody else was working with a festival chair. We had different elements, all pieces put together. Everybody had their own thing that they were responsible for and accountable for. And then they would go ahead and just do what they needed to do to make that happen. If they would need help, they would reach out and ask for help. And then we would help them and give them resources and draw them toward the right person. But everybody took on their own level of personal accountability, because it was a passion, right? We wanted to see this change happen in the environment. We wanted to create a positive social change in the region. And so that was the drive. That was what was making everybody move forward with that. And so, like you said, it was a personal commitment to themselves and to each other at the same time. But it really started with you, right? It was like I said, it's
100%.
you,
Yeah. Accountability is a personal construct, right?
right?
Then you have not only choice, but the responsibility to move forward if you're going to be part of a group, part of a family, part of a whatever
Yes,
team, whatever the case may be, right? That if you're going to call yourself part of something, then you're personally responsible for meeting the expectations of that group, right?
yes, yeah,
Otherwise, why are you there?
right. Why are you there? Well, you're right.
And this is what I
You're
think
part
a
of it.
lot of people are struggling with is that like we want to go to work and do what we want to do and not be accountable to the group.
Or to the bigger picture, right? The mission statement of the
Right.
business, for instance, or the organization, whatever it might be. But to me, that is the bigger picture that you had to keep that focused first. That needs to be, to me, that needs to be the top priority because that's the overall theme, the overall message, the overall thing that reaches to people's hearts and souls is that. If that message doesn't speak to you, you shouldn't really be part of that, right? Because that's not like, because you're not going to be motivated to move forward in doing your part to make that manifest if it doesn't speak to you.
So then
What
I
do you
guess
think?
my question is why do people continue to be part of something that they don't want to be responsible for or accountable to? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
why would you keep being part of something if you innately don't want to be there? And by your thoughts and actions
yeah,
and feelings, you
yeah.
are projecting out because you lack understanding the big picture or adhering to the big picture. Like, why would you stay?
I think a couple of things. I think first of all, people do it for the money that they don't, they're not, it's just because it's a paycheck and they don't feel like sometimes they feel like they're being trapped in a certain, role that they have to do. Like why people work at jobs that they hate. It's that same kind of idea. They don't think they can do something else. So they keep doing the same thing because it's familiar. It's a sense of status quo is easier than taking the leap to do something different or new. And even though they hate it, it's familiar. They know what that icky is like. And so they keep doing that for that reason. But to me, there's a lack of imagination there and an ability to see that there's other choices, that they can do something else and they don't have to keep phoning it in to this thing that they're not really committed to.
Isn't
And
that
that's
like
my thing.
walking up to a hot stove and putting your hand on the burner and you burn yourself and then you just like, oh, well, I guess that's the only thing I know, so I'm gonna just keep, you know what I
It,
mean? Like,
it is kind of like
does
that.
that make sense that we do that?
Well, to me, that's what I call the negative ego or the self-destructive part of ourselves that wants to say that it's not that you can keep doing the same thing over and over and it's okay to have suffering involved because there's this belief in our minds that somehow we have to suffer, we have to struggle, we can't have things that work out for ourselves in a positive way. And so we settle for the thing that we're in, the situation, the circumstances that we're in. It's a lie that we tell ourselves that that part of ourselves does. But to me, that's where that source is from.
Agreed. And it's 100% a lie because it's fully within our control to make
Absolutely.
any situation that we're in a given moment better,
Absolutely.
right? For our
100%.
own happiness.
Yes. Shifting your perspective too,
Yeah.
how you look at it, your view of it. That right there can make a huge shift as far as, like I said, how you approach something. It's like if you
Mhm.
looking at something that's like, oh, this is such a drag. I hate doing this. I can't stand this. Why, blah, 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 blah. And you go into this whole negative mindset. Or you can say, oh, this is my contribution to a bigger picture. I'm here because there's a reason for this. I'm able to help other people in the process. It actually helps me grow as a person as I can continue to take part in this project. And I look at the bigger picture, brighter side of why I'm part of this. I mean, you're still doing the same thing, but it shifts your perspective completely and it enlivens you rather than makes you feel like you want to contract and, push away.
Yeah, a mindset shift is needed.
Yes.
I've been very cognizant of this last week because last week I did energy cleansing with
Yes.
Master Co. And the energy cords
Yeah.
that are connected from you to other people
That
are
was
in
awesome.
fact thought patterns that you've stacked. So if
Yep.
your thought patterns about a given person have been negative, that energy cord from you to them is negative.
Correct.
You need to clean that.
Yep.
Then I have a client who's extra challenging. And so, as an example, I cleaned that particular energy cord with that person. And then I realized, because I had a conversation with like my regional manager who
Uh-huh.
also has to interact with this person on a regular basis. And
Okay.
I explained to him that we have created this negative like interaction with this person by stacking all of these negative thought patterns
Right.
about this particular person.
Right.
And then every time we've started down that road this week on saying something, feeling something, or even just joking about something in a negative light, like the light bulb has gone off. How many times we do that on a daily basis,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was very interesting.
It is really retraining your mind, how you think, right? And start directing your thoughts and controlling your thoughts as opposed to letting them just run wild and go crazy. I think that's a great point that you recognize, oh, this is the old behavior pattern. This is the old thought forms that I'm starting to stack again, which we already know don't work because it does
Mhm.
not produce the desired results you're looking for. And I love that your self-awareness rose to that level, Tiffany. You realize, oh, okay, here's what's happening here. Or is that a little too out there woo-woo
No,
for him?
no, no. He fully understood what I was talking about, and is like right there with me on what was happening. And a lot of the interactions and frustrations came around the idea of accountability and responsibility for
Yeah,
the tasks at hand and the communication and things like that, right? And
yeah,
because we had stacked all of these negative thought patterns, our mindset towards this individual and anything that they were asking from an accountability or responsibility standpoint became immediately negative,
right.
which I
Because it was
thought was
like a
very
filter.
interesting.
Yeah, because you had a filter that was saying, oh, this is a negative thing. And so even if it was a positive thing, it would still be skewed, right? Because of that
Absolutely.
filter.
And
Yeah.
just the cleaning that out, letting it go, having some empathy for my ourselves and for the other person,
Yes.
and just like letting all of that go, right? And then catching ourselves in the moment where we start to stack the negative thought patterns again has led the interaction this week to being much more decent, right? There's not this level of stress.
Yeah.
There's like communication has been easier and more open. Like it was amazing, like just doing that process and like really just taking responsibility and accountability my internally for the thoughts and feelings that I have about said person, right? And not letting the energy going out from me to
Yeah.
be negative. How much
Yes.
just like the weight. It's like a weight.
It's a
You
weight lifted off.
cut a ball off the chain. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I'm not dragging that baggage around with me this week, which
That's
has been
so
great.
powerful. That's
Yeah,
so powerful, Tiffany.
absolutely.
Congratulations. No, that's awesome.
So now I got to go do that with everybody. Go start cleaning energy cords. But no,
Well, you also brought up a really good point that you really recognize the humanity of the person that you're dealing with, because people
correct.
are, one of the things I learned from neuro-linguistic programming from many years ago, which I'm a practitioner in that, is that, people will always make the best choice available to them at the time.
Sure.
And a lot of times they don't think they have any other choice, so they make this choice that is causing harm or is seen as more negative or hurtful. But if you give them other choices and you start to realize, oh, well, they're just doing what they think is the best thing. So why don't I give them some other options so they can pick something else to do instead? They'll pick the better thing. They always will. They always pick. No one's going to look at shitty case, good case. I'm going to pick the shitty case. They're not. They're going to always pick the good one. They're always pick whatever feels better. All right.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing that empathy about this is a human being. This is someone else. Maybe you don't know what they're going through in their own personal life or what issues they have and why they might be insecure. And so they try and tear other people down in order to make
Yeah.
themselves feel better. But if you step out of that game and recognize their humanity, like you just mentioned, and then come from it from a different place of like compassion and understanding and maybe even humor and the kill them with kindness thing,
Yep.
like lighten it up as opposed to
Mhm.
buying into the negative stuff. A lot of times they'll totally turn around. They'll be like, oh, oh, you're getting me. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Okay, yeah, I can do that for you. Sure. It will totally shift the
It
dynamic.
does. It does. It's amazing how
Magical.
much it shifts. And it is magical. You're right.
Really is.
100%.
Magical.
how do we keep that mindset and the pursuit of happiness while also being accountable to like the expectations and things of the society, the family, the career, work, or you know what I mean? Because we have all these
Yeah.
external expectations,
Yeah.
right? It's our choice at the end of the day, but how do we maintain happiness while living within these very outer constructs that we have to like exist within?
I was just working with a client the other day and we were talking about exactly this, and
Yeah.
that she'd went through a breakup with a partner that she'd been with for 17 years.
Wow.
And she recognized that this gentleman was not interested in growing or
Mm.
changing. And in fact, he was blaming her for him not making changes in his life. And so that was one of the reasons why she got out of the relationship finally. And I talked to her about the fact that you are in charge of your own happiness, Tiffany, nobody else.
Absolutely.
You think other people are in charge, but they really aren't. It sources from within you. And what you decide, you can make yourself happy in any circumstance that you're in, even in what would be horrible circumstances, quote unquote. You can find the silver lining. Excuse me. You can find that silver lining. You can find a way to find something that you can be grateful for in that circumstance, and how you can, and look at it from how it can propel you forward in your life and in your growth, and make yourself happy no matter what's happening. So I think that was, and that was a key for her as well, recognizing that she was thinking, oh, I might want to get together with other friends and maybe they can make me happy. And then and while we were talking, she realized, but that's not going to work, because then I'm trying to make them responsible for my happiness.
Correct.
And that's exactly the thing I just got out of with this guy, was
Yeah.
because he was trying to make me responsible for his happiness.
And I think we often fall back into those patterns too, don't we?
Yes. So
Yeah.
she recognized that she had to source it from within herself and sort of do things
Mhm.
that made herself happy, that made
Yeah.
her feel good about herself, and that did not have anything to do with anybody else. Although you might, maybe it's going to a movie with somebody and that's part of what you do, but you're choosing it because it makes you feel good to do that, right? You're not thinking that they have to do it for you. They might participate with you in that, but it might not be something you do, just by yourself. That leads to something one of my spiritual teachers was talking about. I did a whole weekend on happiness, fun.
Sure.
And a lot of people thought, well, that's kind of a silly thing to spend a lot of time on. But actually, it's crucial in our growth as spiritual
Very
beings.
much so.
Fun is absolutely crucial. Lazarus is the name of the spiritual teacher and a channeled entity. And they talked about, people ask, why are we physical? Why are we here? What's the reason why we're on this planet?
Yeah.
And they said there's two things that we have in common for being human beings in the physical dimension. And you have other reasons as well, as far as individual growth and personal and spiritual growth, but two things are in common. One is to learn to consciously create success, whatever that means to you, whatever success
Yeah.
means to you.
Yeah.
And the second thing is to have fun. Have fun,
All
to
right.
enjoy life.
Yeah.
What you do that's fun. So here's a technique I wanted to share with everybody right now. This may be helpful for the fun part, right? So you write down 3 columns. At the top is, fun things, right? And then you have 3 columns, and 1 through 20. Come up with at least 20 things, and write down 20 things that you think are fun. And then when you go through that, look, the columns are you can do by yourself, you would do with others, or that cost money. And then check which ones have each one of those qualities. And
Cool.
that way, in a place where you kind of can't figure out what to do to make yourself feel fun or have happiness in your life,
Mhm.
you look at your list and go, okay, well, I don't want to spend any money right now, but I could either do something with somebody else or by myself. So what could I do? Oh, I can go to the beach with my friend, or I can take a walk in the park. Maybe I'll do something by myself today. Oh, one of my things on my fun list is to have a bubble bath and put on some mellow music. I really enjoy that. That really makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
So those columns really help to kind of identify where you are at that particular moment in your life. And it's easier if you write it down ahead of time, because
Mhm.
sometimes writing it, and when you're in that space, it's hard to generate what's going to make what's fun for me right now, what's
Sure.
going to make me
Yeah.
feel good. But if you have it already written down, you go, oh, I can do this. This will work. I'm going to go do this thing right now. So I thought that was a really, really powerful technique, and I've used it many times with clients over the years as well.
And I think just starting each day, like with the intention that like you're going to find the joy in whatever circumstance you have,
Yes,
what's funny
yes,
about or
yes,
unusual about,
yes.
whatever the circumstances helps and goes a long way as well.
And I think, like, for instance, an intention would be you wake up in the morning, it's like, I'm going to have 3 different things today that are going to make me feel happy. And then you start to look at, well, what are those 3 things going to be? How's this going to
Yeah.
unfold today? If you do that with an intention in the morning like that, I guarantee it will happen. And
Yeah, magic
the
happens.
day will be more, magic will
Yeah.
happen, Because the day will be more about is this the first of three of the fun things today? Is this the first happiness thing
Yeah.
today? You'll be looking for the points where the happiness pops in, right? You'll be
And I
looking for
think because you're looking for it, then more things keep coming, right?
they do
Like you're
because
because
you're
your focus and attention is on
correct.
fun, exciting, good, joy,
Exactly.
and all of those things. And so like
And
you're
your
more in
resonance
tune with the fact that these things actually happen all the time, all around us.
all the time. They
Yeah,
do. They happen all the time. We just ignore them a lot of times.
correct.
So then you'll start to notice them and it'll pop in because your resonance, you're raising your vibration to match the frequency of happiness. And so when you do that, you start to draw those things to you like a magnet, like literally.
For
And
sure.
they will, and like I said, and you also become aware of them, like you just mentioned as
Yeah.
well.
So we talked last week about manifesting.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes people will try manifesting or think of manifesting as this idea that if I dream something, something that's just going to automatically happen.
right.
And they discount the accountability and responsibility that's needed to actually make the thing that you want to manifest come true.
Yeah, spiritually speaking, responsibility is the ability to respond to your reality. So that means you give up the victimhood role, right? You stop pretending that things are happening to you and recognize that these things are happening for you, for your personal growth. So your ability to respond is you're being responsible. So when something happens, you respond to that. You don't just let it go by and do nothing. You take some kind of action around that. And power is the ability to act, to take action. And so, like what you just addressed is like there's really important that everything starts with a
Mhm.
dream. It does. It all starts with a dream. This podcast was a dream, right? The
Absolutely.
computers that we're sitting on, somebody dreamt them up. The
Absolutely.
business you're working at, the chair you're sitting on, everything began
Yeah.
as a dream. And then as people start to take action with intentional action on that dream, it's down steps into the physical dimension and becomes reality for us, quote unquote, becomes real. So it's the same idea with, that idea of taking responsibility, right? And saying, okay, yes, I want to create this thing that I have this dream about that I want to manifest. And then what steps do I do? How do I move forward in making that happen? I mean, one thing that I thought we've talked about before is about the idea of, setting goals, right? And
Mhm.
then having specific measurable results in particular are really important. And also, like you said, achievable,
Yeah.
relevant, and also that are time bound. It's not just like, oh, any old time, whenever no, that's not going to work. That's too
Mhm.
nebulous. That's too non-committal, right? Things
Yeah.
don't, the universe is like, oh, well, you don't really care then because you're just saying whenever. Well, that can be when you're, the last day before you die, and it still happens. So
Yeah.
it still met your criteria. It's like, no, let's be more specific about that. So I think that's really important to look at setting realistic. And sometimes goal setting can feel really intimidating, but to me, it's more about, again, placing intention with actions that you're going to take to make that thing manifest, right? To make that with actions to make the thing manifest.
Well, and I think if you go back in time and you look at goals that you've set, and if you're really realistic with yourself, the reason that you may or may not have achieved those goals was really whether or not you're accountable to yourself and putting forth the effort to get
Yeah.
there. I used to always choose
Yeah.
like 5 goals for the year, right? And around New Year's resolution time when everybody's building, and
Yeah.
would go so far as to do a vision board or hang them up where I could see them or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I realized the next year that I still hadn't accomplished the same damn 5 goals, right? Because, like, beyond the intention of the goals, I was not actively pursuing
Right.
creating the reality that came from those goals. And so
Yeah.
I wasn't being accountable and responsible to myself to
Correct.
do the things necessary to get where I needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that to me is also directing your energy, right? Directing your power, directing what you're, we all have the ability to do different things with our time in the day throughout the day. And we're like, where are you spending that time? And are you taking action towards something that's going to help you manifest your dreams? I mean, one of the things that I was just thinking about this when you were talking is that people who are successful in any field, they do something toward that dream usually every day. Like it's a daily thing. It might be small, it might be 5 minutes, but it's something. I remember an interview with Madonna when she had first started her career in New York City. She started out as a dancer, and then she realized she wanted to be a singer, a performer, right? I mean, including dance, but she wanted to sing. And so she had committed to herself that every day she was going to do something to move her career forward. And of course, she became one of the biggest pop stars in history and one of the most
Yeah.
successful recording artists of all time. Started
That,
out with that daily commitment to do
yeah,
something toward her dream in a physical way, an actionable way.
sure. And I think you see that in everybody who's at the top of their career field,
Everybody.
that they have put forth the effort
Yeah.
to get there. It's
Yep.
funny because I keep seeing these social media posts pop up about like, everybody wants the six-figure salary, but few people actually put in the effort or understand what it takes to actually get to that six-figure salary or to achieve like the career height that they want to go to. Like you have to put in the effort. Like no one's
Yeah.
handing this stuff to you,
Yeah.
in very few cases. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen occasionally,
Does.
nepotism and all of that jazz, but most people have to put forth a lot of effort. There's a lot of things going on both within the construct of the career or whatever, and also in your personal life that you have to stack together to achieve the goal.
Yeah, I agree with that. And but another point that comes up for me, Tiffany, is that I think also it's important not to buy into this idea that you always have to work hard and struggle in order to get your goal, right? That there's someone you have to like there's this immense amount of effort all the time where there can be miracles that happen, things that
Oh,
just pop
100%. Yes.
because but it's because you're being intentional, you're directing yourself, you're taking action toward that goal that you want to have happen, and then doors magically open for you and things you just kind of step through. And it seems like to the outside world that, this just happened and you were just lucky, but it's not luck. It's because you're aligning yourself with your vision and your goals and you're
Correct.
taking action toward that both externally and internally. And then the universe magically makes things pop into your reality and then things open up like a door opens. You're like, for instance, why you get that suddenly you get that interview, right? You get the job when everybody else doesn't, that kind of thing. Like when I was acting for many years, it's like, why did I get cast in something and somebody else didn't?
Mhm.
What was the difference, right? It's like because there was a part of me that was ready to receive that. I was also open to that, and I also put the energy and the effort. I'd been to school, I did my homework, I had my monologues ready. I was
Yeah.
prepared, and at the same time, I was willing to allow that magic
Yeah.
to occur.
But I think the magic doesn't occur without some effort. I
Yeah,
think too
yeah,
often we think
I
the
agree.
magic just happens, right? The
Right,
reality is you
right.
actually have aligned yourself
Yeah.
to allow the magic
It's
to be funneled your direction. If
like
you
when the
just
singer,
sit
yeah,
somewhere and expect, these magical things to happen, you
yeah,
are going to be disappointed 99.999% of the time because you are not in alignment and or moving in the direction that allows the universe to give you what you're asking for.
correct. And that's placing an intention and holding that resonance and that
Correct.
vibration that matches that dream or that goal, that desire.
Correct. And then
Excuse me,
move, like you are energy, move in a
my
direction.
energy. Yeah,
It will funnel through to you. But
it
if you
will.
just sit inert and hope
Yeah,
that
no,
this thing is going, magically there's going to be $1 million that lands in my bank account,
right.
it's not going to happen. I 100% of the time I'm going to tell you, you could win the lottery, but if you don't buy a ticket, you are guaranteed to lose 100% of the time, right?
That's so true. Exactly
So
right.
I also
Exactly
heard
right.
something interesting today, and it was the only reason that you are not living the life that you want to live is because you keep feeding the life that you don't want to live.
Oh, that's powerful.
I know.
So very true.
Because, and this again goes back to that accountability. So if you want to change how your life is, and you continue to do the same things over and over again that you are currently doing, which
Yeah.
is keeping you from achieving that goal, that is literally the definition of insanity, expecting some new
Yes.
outcome while doing the same thing every day, hoping that something's magically going to be different.
Right. And I would also point that that can be something that you're doing internally as well as externally, but
Right.
there's still action being taken. You're
Yeah.
in process. You're doing something with that. No, you're exactly right. I mean, even the people who win the lottery, it's like, oh, well, that they were open to receiving that to some level. But a lot of times you hear this as well, that people who do that, a lot of times they end up broke within a year
Correct.
because they've not changed their internal mindset around money and finances and what they want to do with that money. And they don't seek out a financial, advisor to help them invest it so they can live out the rest of their lives. They blow it and give it away to friends and family and buy 10 homes and boats and all the kinds of crap. And then and it's gone. So that's that part of that shifting of that internal process. I wanted to say this another thing too about like how things appear to be magical and sometimes, but there's been work done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like I remember singers will come on the scene all of a sudden, right? And you think, oh my gosh, this person's amazing and they're brand new. And like they're not brand new. They've been doing that usually for years.
Well, and
And
that
then
song,
suddenly that one song
yeah,
hits and then they become popular and then everything takes off. And from there on, it's much easier, right? Because that door suddenly bursts open, right?
yeah.
Everything starts to happen. And so there's a magical element to it. But they've been preparing for that shift and that change for a long time,
Well,
really, for that to
and
get
they
there.
probably have sang that song 10,000 times already before you notice it and it becomes popular,
It's true.
which is
Same with
funny.
Olympic athletes. Like, oh, I could do that. Well, probably not unless you train for like,
Yeah,
10 years since you were a kid.
correct.
And even then, it's like they commit to that every day. And they
Absolutely.
hold that vision in their minds about what they want it to be, what they want to be like. They see themselves winning the race, winning the heat, doing the
And they spend 10
gymnastic performance,
hours
whatever it is.
practicing every day. You know what I
They
mean? To
do.
get there.
They do.
So if you're not willing to get specific on your goals, figure out a way to measure whether or not you're successful or not,
Yeah.
and actually like work towards it and put some effort into it, you're
Yeah.
probably not going to achieve or potentially not achieve the successful level that you want.
Right.
So, but it really comes back to like taking personal responsibility and accountability to embrace that you are in control of whether or not you're successful or not in achieving the
Correct.
goal.
I think that personal responsibility and being accountable to yourself and
Mhm.
being responsible to yourself for your own progress and your own goals and the visions and how those manifest. I think that's key right there, Tiffany. That's
Yeah.
the whole point. Because every time we tell it's other people doing it, that it's up to them to make things happen, that puts us in a place of being powerless and being a victim and at the whim of other people deciding our fate. And
Yeah.
that's not true. That's a lie.
No, it is a lie. And I think once you realize that and you realize that you are in control and you are starting to think about the possibilities of being able to achieve whatever it is, the universe starts to send you the clues that you otherwise would have missed,
Yeah,
to help align you with whatever it is that you're intending to do.
totally
So
agree.
I think that when we talk about like accountability, practical tips to just stay focused on and in a positive mindset, because that is probably like the number one key to
Yeah.
achieving anything is
Yeah.
the belief one that you can,
Yes.
being positive and happy about the circumstances, even in the face of failure,
Yes.
right? Because anything that's worth doing or anything that's worth achieving is worth doing, right?
And also recognize that failure is not something negative or bad. There's really is no such thing as failure. It's just
Sure.
feedback from your reality saying, oh, that thing didn't work, so I need to try something else.
Yeah.
Rather than going to some self-judgment thing and all this other crap that comes up with that. Just like, oh, okay, I should try something different because that's not working. That's not producing the results I want. So I need to try something else.
Absolutely. And just having blind faith and moving forward,
Yeah.
while not paying attention to when the universe is telling you, hey, I gotcha. But that particular avenue you just went down is not going to achieve where you want to be 10 steps ahead. So
Correct.
I'm going to put this roadblock in here. So you have to make a detour
Right.
to find a
Right.
different way. Yeah,
Right.
for
I
sure.
like that. So some other practical tips about helping keep yourself accountable and being responsible for your own success and for your own happiness would be doing some kind of daily or weekly routine that enhances that ability to be accountable and be responsible to yourself. I think that's something that we talked about before already with like Madonna, for instance, these
Yeah.
different people do something that's on a moving you forward on a daily, consistent, but imperfect action. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
perfect. But
Yeah,
it's okay to still be human. It's okay to mess
yeah,
up. As long as you keep moving forward and being consistent with taking action that moves you toward your goals, that's the thing that's going to make the difference, right? And also, like I said, mentioned about tools and resources that help you track your progress, right? And to maintain focus. Those would be really helpful as well. Like just like I said, somebody says writing down what you've accomplished this week, for instance. That's a great thing. I think it works a lot, really helps because a lot of times we tend to not give ourselves credit for how much we have progressed. And you think, oh, I've not done anything toward this, nothing's happening. If you look back and what's, like where you were like a year ago, for instance, or 6 months ago, and you actually look at where you are and where you're at, where you were and where you are now, you'll
Yeah.
see that you have been moving forward. Because I think it's important to give ourselves those wins and to celebrate those smaller wins, because that encourages us to keep going, right? To keep moving forward.
I think it's sometimes hard to see like how far you've come in the micro.
It
But when
is.
you look at the macro of it and the length of time, like if you go back, 10 years and look at who you are 10 years ago to who you are today,
Yeah.
most people are better, are in better
Yeah.
situations,
Most of
right?
them
Not
are.
everybody, but most people.
Most people.
And also I think it's really important to not put yourself in situations that allow you to backslide away from the thing that you want. And that, a lot of times our goals are to move forward, but yet we keep surrounding ourselves with the people who are not going to allow us to move forward, or situations that won't allow us to move forward, or circumstances, and the list goes on from there, right?
Yeah.
And if we continue to have those things in our life that are resistance to us being able to move forward, the likelihood of us successfully moving forward quickly is diminished.
Yes, and I think that you speak to the point of power of community, Tiffany, that you
Mhm.
find people who are of like mind, who are doing the same kind of thing, have the similar goals, and you support each other in that process, right? Because there's always times when we feel more or less resourceful. That's just part of being human. But if you have other people who are you can rely on and reach out to and ask for help when you're feeling one of those unresourceful places, that can help you get through that, right? It'll help you bolster through that and keep moving forward and manifesting your dreams that way. And so I think that power community is really, really awesome in this circumstance. Because again, if you're trying to share these, like this new business you're creating and people around you don't believe that you can do it and they keep poo-pooing it on you, it's best not to talk about it with them at all, just not to share that with them,
Yeah.
period. No matter who they are, if they're family, friends, partner, whoever, just don't talk about it with them. Talk about it with other people who are doing the same kind of thing that you're doing, who want to do the same thing you're doing, and encourage each other that way and get inspired from them as they're going through the
Mhm.
process. And that way you're being lifted up and that vibration is being raised as opposed to trying to fight against something that's trying to hold you back.
Well, and I think a lot of times we do have people in who are important to us who don't understand the big picture of where we want to go, and they will often try to keep us wherever they are.
Correct.
It may not be in our highest good to continue. So I think you do have to
Correct.
set some boundaries
Absolutely.
around talking about your goals, and also
Absolutely.
like allowing internally for the feelings of others to color how you feel about where you're going.
Yeah. Because some of these people who are they're well-meaning and they have a lot of love for you, they don't get it. They don't understand where you're coming from, what you're trying to do.
Correct.
And so
Because
it's
their passion isn't the same as yours.
correct.
They have a
Right.
whole different worldview
Right.
and a whole different set of beliefs
Correct.
and feelings about something. So
Correct.
like we're not the same. And
Right.
so like it's okay that you don't get it.
Yeah, it is.
It's
You don't have to try and convince them that you're right or that to
correct.
get them to come on your side. Just it's okay. You can agree to disagree and still love them and move on and not share that part of yourself with them because they're going to try and hold you back because they want you to stay. A lot of times, Tiffany, it's because they want you to stay in this familiar role, right? They want you to stay in the way that they're used to seeing you being. I mean, there was this saying about the prophet is recognized, the last place they're ever recognized is in their hometown. Because people are you, oh, I knew you growing up. How can you be
Yeah,
some guru who's like, this all amazing magical person? It's like, and you are this amazing magical guru person,
absolutely.
but and the rest of the world recognizes it. But the last place that they'll recognize it is the town you grew up in because they're used to you
Yeah,
being who you were when you were younger, and they want
correct.
to keep you in that box, that familiar space, because it makes them uncomfortable to see you in a different way. And a lot of times it's because they don't want to look at themselves and see how they may have given up on their own dreams and
Correct.
you're pursuing yours.
Correct. And I think the same way you can't live other people's dreams for them. So a lot of times parents and people will try to manipulate the circumstances
Yeah.
to try to hold you accountable for
Yeah.
achieving their dreams.
Yes,
And
you're
that's
exactly
not okay
right.
either.
The parents had their own life, they had their own chance, they
Correct.
don't get to try and force you to live their dreams.
Yeah.
You need to focus on what your dreams are and what brings you joy and passion and makes you feel expansive as a person, and do that.
So I think, just to recap, all of accountability in being able to manifest or create the reality that you want is 100% within your control. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, you're the feeler of your feelings, the thinker of your thoughts, and the doer of the actions that you take. So accountability is really an internal construct that you are in control of. Accountability
Right.
is not something necessarily that you can enforce on others, because you can set expectations,
Right.
but I can't force you to be accountable for
No, you can't.
something, right? But I can set expectations and ask you to achieve them. Vice versa, from an internal standpoint, if the only person that is actually going to be able to achieve my goals is me,
It's
because
you.
I have to put forth the effort, energy, and thoughts and feelings that are in alignment with whatever it is that goal is that I want.
Yes. And I think that ties into the fact that it's important to recognize the bigger picture. Why are you wanting to do this? What is the overall motivating factor? What's your personal mission statement? What's your dharma? What's the reason? Why are you on this planet? What are you here to do? Because if you think about the bigger why, that's a big motivating factor to keep moving forward on your goals, as opposed to getting lost into the daily minutia of how you make that happen. So I think that kind of ties into what you're talking about. They recognize that, okay, this is an internal process, and this is one of the big reasons that way that happens. And I think another key point, you learn from your mistakes, that there's no such thing as a failure. It's just feedback. If you get a lot of resistance and things are not, something that's not working out, you don't keep doing the same thing. You adapt and try something different, because that means that thing isn't the path for you. There's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean you're a big fuck up or something. It just means that isn't working. And so you take that feedback and then you adjust, you adapt, right? You try something else instead.
There's not just one way to achieve a goal either,
Correct.
right?
True.
Be resourceful in finding another option. If you're getting resistance in
Right.
one area, it means that you just need to find a path of least resistance to get to
Right.
where you need to be.
And that whole process about taking on recognize that you're responsible for your own happiness, and your own accountability and your own responsibility are all toward yourself. That's empowering. That's an empowering stance. So that creates empowerment in your personal life, as well as every other aspect of your being when you do that. Also, the fact that relationships and community are really important, that you find people who support you in your dreams and your goals, and you set boundaries, and you don't have to share or participate with other people who do not want to support you in that, who don't get it or don't understand it, even if it's
Mhm.
well intentioned.
Well, I hope that we have given the listeners the ability to understand that manifesting responsibility, accountability are completely within their control. And so
Yeah.
that wraps up another episode of Level Up Stronger. Remember, accountability and responsibility aren't just buzzwords. They are actually a foundation of fulfilling life and the stepping stones to achieving your wildest dreams.
We hope today's discussion sparks a fire in you to take charge, make intentional choices, and pursue your goals with relentless determination. Don't forget, we're all in this journey together, and your story of growth and achievement might just be the inspiration someone else needs to hear. So feel free to share.
Share your expectations with us, and let's continue to build a community of strong, accountable individuals. Until next time, keep leveling up and living stronger. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye for now.
Bye.